Blessings to whoever sees this. My name is Noah Aaron Goodbaum. I live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I make hip-hop music under the name The Mighty Rhino.
Welcome.
Thank you so
Noah.
much. I'm 26 years old, and I was born in Toronto at Women's College Hospital. I've been elsewhere, but never lived elsewhere. My father raised me in North York. I lost my mother when I was 9. She's in the kingdom now. And I am the son of Zell and Aviva Goodbaum. And I grew up, I have my brother Diggs is 36. My sister Haley and I are both 26. I've got nieces and stepsisters and what have you. And I was born with cerebral palsy, and I have a nonverbal learning disability and bipolar disorder, and depending on who you ask, Asperger's and OCD as well. I have a little eccentricity collection, I guess you could say. And so it wasn't really a sure thing that I would walk or talk, but I functioned reasonably well, and I went to school. I was a York University student for a time. I was pursuing a political science degree. Crashed and burned twice, failed out both times. There's a part of me that misses it and wants to go back, wants to meet that particular goal. But there's also a part of me that's tremendously grateful not to be doing it anymore. I live on Ontario disability support. That's sort of after a breakdown not long ago in March. That's sort of less contentious of a matter than it might once have been for me. I sort of wonder whether the right thing isn't to be working harder, to be working more concretely toward a goal which can more obviously help the world than can rap music. But I fell in love with hip-hop around the age of 13, 14, 15, even earlier, rather, because my brother, who is a very accomplished composer and arranger, as well as a great maker of hip-hop beats and the owner of an organic grocery store, Diggs. He's an extraordinary man and a wonderful man and a very profound influence on my life. He introduced me to hip-hop as a teenager, and I fell headlong in love with it, and sort of was compelled to make hip-hop. I didn't really have a choice. I had to be doing what, Outkast were doing, and Shali Tuna was doing, and E40 was doing, Mystical, and Ghostface and Raekwon and Scarface and all the rest of them. There's dozens, and I could rant about these artists and what they've meant to me, but I had to do it. I had to try to do it. I know it was an awkward situation because I'm a white kid from a relatively privileged background. I grew up in North York, which is full of nice lawns and nice Jews and not terribly much else. It's very safe and clean and a lovely place to grow up, but it's also rather bland. And so hip-hop has concerns around identity and authenticity, and very much is tied up in the particular legacy of a racialized group, black folks, and usually black folks from low-income backgrounds who have been devastated by neoliberal economics. And so coming from where I do, my father's a businessman, and my father and mother went into business together. Their company is called Viva, which was my mother's name. She was Aviva Goodbaum, and my father convinced her to call the business Viva. She sort of objected on modesty grounds to naming it after herself, but then she looked and saw it on the marquee and said, okay, it works, it's Viva. And my father sells sterling silver jewelry. So coming from relative privilege and now living on RDSP, it's sort of an awkward transition, but I sort of would like to think that I can get by on account of the fact that I'm really great at it. I make good hip-hop. I work really hard to pay tribute to my influences and to make worthy art, so that's part of what I'm doing. I struggled for so long at York University trying to do a poli-sci degree, even though I had several marvelous professors. By the end of it, my guidance counselor at York, who was called Maureen Haig, looked me in the face and said, listen, you want to maybe consider dropping out. You're obviously miserable and you might not want to continue to force yourself to do this. It's a little bit like hitting your head against a wall. There's a part of me that feels like it's the wrong thing to have dropped out because I want to be stable and maybe one day meet a partner and make sure that she's well she's safe and that I can provide the things she might need in concert with her and sort of build a life that makes sense. But there's also a part of me that's exhilarated not to be in school, and I haven't had a job in some time, a formal sort of job. I volunteer now and again at the Baha'i Center, and I've thought to get involved maybe a little bit more with, I don't know if I could ever tutor or what am I looking for? I've also had good experiences volunteering with old folks. When my Zaidi, who had Alzheimer's, was as a convalescent home called Kamar Lodge, I used to volunteer with the people there. But at present, I mean, I'm mostly chipping away at my second album and plugging away, that is, just trying to make it the best it can be. I work with an executive producer whose name is Measuring Man, Ted Honestchuk, and he's a very accomplished producer. He's also the engineer at a studio called Silver Birch at Bathurst and Queens Quay in Toronto. And he took me on when we were both participants at a monthly hip-hop event in Toronto called Hip Hop Karaoke, which is a fun sort of event. It works like karaoke, except that it's expected that you memorize a classic hip-hop song and perform it with gusto as if it were your song. And so I met him there, and I developed a reputation for being good at hip-hop karaoke, and he decided, listen, I'm an engineer and I used to run a label. Why don't you come into my studio and I'll see what your original work is like? And he decided to take me on as his kind of protege after that. So we put together an album. We worked on it for 18 months and released it at the tail end of 2011, beginning of 2012. It's called He Whom the Beat Sets Free is Free Indeed. In fact, I have a copy right over there that I can show you. So I put that out. It was something of a sort of minor local success. It didn't get very much play because we didn't have very much money for promotions or for marketing. It sort of felt like a spend money. Music these days is a spend money to make money enterprise at the best of times. And I was sheepish about spending more money than absolutely necessary to pursue what's at the end of the day a passion. So we didn't spend very much, and it was what it was. It was a local success and not much beyond that. But it was a very good work of art, I'd like to think. And so we put that together, and now we're working on a second one, because what am I going to do? I love hip hop. I'm not going to give up. I love it too much to throw in the towel. Now the trick is this. I have a vision of the kind of person I want to be, and it's influenced partly by God, but also something inward, something innate, something that, like a worldview I've had for as long as I've been able to think abstractly about the world. You know what I mean? Which is that I want to be a virtuous man. I want to be a man who lives a good life, and I want to be someone who sacrifices himself when necessary in pursuit either of betterment of self or in particular, of the well-being of other people. And I haven't really learned how to do that yet. You know what I mean? I haven't sacrificed very much. I haven't laid my life on the line. I haven't worked like a dog as yet, really, to be a benefit to others. And there's a part of me that's conflicted, because performance and showmanship, there's obviously good in that, right? You're making folks happy. And with some of the songs I've written, I had the great good fortune the other week. I wrote a song called Company Policy. Company policy is a concept I came up with because I fell in love with a girl in, I want to say, mid-2010. And this girl, I mean, shit. I still smile to think of her. She's a gem. She's an extraordinary human being. And we had a romance of the kind I'd always dreamed of. I've been a romantic since I was yay high. I've been I wanted to find a girl and just love the shit out of her and give her the things she needed and make her extraordinarily happy. And I had the chance to do that. It was a brief romance. It didn't last very long, but we made one another really happy. And then she left. And it rends your heart in half. But but it's interesting. There's a Bill Withers song called Liza. It's one of the songs that I listen to regularly, and he's sitting down, and you picture him sitting down, and the first thing he says into the microphone in this song, he says, Probably one of the nicest affections that there is in the whole world is that's there between a wise old uncle and a very innocent young niece. And then he goes, Liza, won't you lay your head on my shoulder? Cry if you want to, I don't mind. Seems to me you need some love and kindness, and all I've got is time. Wiser is the way when you grow older. Cry if you want to, I don't mind. Seems to me you need to give and show love. Oh. So lay your head on mine. He says, I think I might have missed the key line. The key line is, nothing heals a broken heart but time. And it's miraculous that that's worked. But I came up with this concept, company policy, and company policy because while I was in this relationship with this girl, she used to turn to me and she used to ask me, why are you so sweet to me? I've never encountered anyone who was so sweet to me, who was so consistently considerate of my feelings. And this is a difficult thing to say because I want to be a righteous man. I don't want to be immodest. I want to represent myself truly and accurately, and I don't want to toot my own horn unnecessarily, you know what I'm talking about. But she did say this to me, and I would respond to her, well, it's company policy. It's what I do. It's how I am. It's the way I want to be. I want to give you the best love I can. And so company policy, when she left me, I wrote this song, Company Policy. It goes, oh, don't you know, it's the chorus. It's company policy, baby. It's company policy, baby. Just the way I've learned to love. It's company policy, baby. It's the way I make my peace. It's in my soul. And I wrote a song about forgiving her. I wrote a song about forgiveness. I wrote a song about the fact that she had chosen in conscience, to leave me because she felt the need to. She had, agency is so crucially important. And so because she had exercised her agency and been true to herself, I had forgiven her and I still loved her. And, the trick with company policy, which I've sort of said this in live shows and the like, is that in love and in romance, but also in general in human relationships, I try to love people on their terms. This is the way I've put it historically in live shows. I don't want to come off sounding rehearsed, but I've said it. I've said company policy means to love a person on their terms rather than the terms that would best benefit me. And to love when it hurts and, to love for the love of a human being, irrespective of whether or not you get what you want out of a relationship. That's the way I've put it live before. And that's sort of crucially important to me. And so I wrote a song about that. I wrote a song about, got a lot of my dogs thinking I'm strange. This girl left you. Why you got a song singing her praise? Why you ain't livid with rage cussing her out? I tell them, because that ain't actually what loving's about. Sometimes I want to attack and be savagely cruel, but my heart doesn't have the capacity to. And you did what yours asked you to do. So how I'm finna be mad because we can't rekindle the thing that we had. And I went on like this, sort of just in praise of her and in sort of making reference to how transcendent it had been for me, how wonderful it had been for me to experience love for the first time. I can spit the whole thing if you'd like me to. I'll do it. I'm a rapper. I'll do it. I'll rap my song. You know what I'm saying?
The connection between rap and your faith and spirituality.
Sure. Well, it's tricky. It's tricky because I've become a Baha'i. Here's the story of how I became a Baha'i. My father and Allah Shalom, my mother, were very observant Reconstructionist Jews. Reconstructionist Judaism is a philosophy which sort of interprets Judaism as a civilization, as sort of an ever-evolving civilization, and regards the sees the central duty of Jews to be the carrying forward of Judaism as a civilization rather than as a faith. And I was brought up to sort of understand God as this power that allows us to rise above our brute animal natures and do good things in the world, but not necessarily as a supernatural force or a being with a mind and a personality. And I still respect Reconstructionism hugely. I think it's a wonderful philosophy. I think Mordecai Kaplan, who created it, was tremendously brilliant, and that its principles can do a whole lot of good to help the world. But there was something in me that was sort of asking, okay, well, I read the sermon of one of the talks of Sojourner Truth, and she was talking about, ain't I a woman? Talking about how dainty white women would receive more respect than she as a hardworking black woman ever did in those days. And I've sort of been thinking, I'm not to relate the scenario by any stretch of the imagination, but there's the turn of phrase. I was thinking, ain't I a human being? Who's Jesus? What did Jesus do in the world? What are Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Zoroastrianism, Jainism? What have these faiths, philosophies, worldviews, understandings of reality brought to the world? Is there a common unifying thread? What if God's out there? What if there is a being, And I was listening to a lot of gospel. I was listening to Curtis Mayfield. I was listening to People Get Ready. I was listening to the Muslim albino rapper Brother Ali, who's tremendously gifted and has written. He writes very vividly and very movingly about his faith. And Mos Def and Kanye West and some of the Scarface. Scarface has a tremendously moving song called Someday, and another called What Can I Do, about his faith. And I was listening to these songs and thinking, well, what's this like? What would it mean to sort of develop the relationship to the infinite that these people have, where it's not just sort of a tacit acceptance that we are all united as part of a whole, and we have a sort of responsibility in the interdependent web of existence, to use a Unitarian turn of phrase. But what if there is a personal God out there to whom we can relate, supplicate, call out, and who loves us? What would this mean? And when I found the Baha'i faith, I was sort of astonished. My father was the last in his family who had never been to Israel. And so we went as Jewish pilgrims when I was 15, and I saw the gardens in Haifa, to which Baha'u'llah had been banished when Haifa and Akka were prison colonies for, those the Ottoman and Persian empires detested, because Baha'u'llah had claimed to be a new prophet after Muhammad alayhi salam, and the ruling authorities didn't like that. They banished him there, and that's why the Baha'i Gardens and the seat of its administrative order are in Haifa and Accra. And I was sort of astonished. I thought, wow, what is this? What's this wonderful thing? And I thought back to Sam Cooke. There's a time I thought I wouldn't last for long. Now I know I'ma be able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Whoa, yes it will. So, follow me for a second. Like, Baha'u'llah claims to be the fulfillment of the eschatological expectations of previous faiths. And the understanding of the Baha'i faith is that the religions we know of are differing versions of the same truth, revealed at different times with slightly different secondary characteristics according to the needs of the people of a given age. Such that, at least according to some Baha'i understandings and my understanding, the polytheism of early Hinduism is not necessarily a blasphemy as such. It's part of the ongoing, development of religious civilization and of sort of a beginner's ontology. You know what I mean? And see also what looks like irreligious visions of Buddhism, non-theistic visions of Buddhism, and Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Zoroastrianism, Sikhism, all have their part to play in this sort of interconnected matrix, whereby the one God reveals his truth in different forms. Baha'u'llah says we reveal our writings in 9 different modes according to the capacities of different hearers and listeners. And I was sort of inspired by this because I had always sort of dreamed that if there was a God out there, then of necessity, he could not answer my prayers as a Jew, but reject the prayers of my brethren who were Hindu or Christian or Jain or what have you, that there must be a universally benevolent and omnibenevolent God. I've never quite been able to make the leap that Baha'is usually make, which is the traditional understanding that God is omnipotent and has full sovereignty over the workings of the universe. But I do believe in God's omnibenevolence. And this is sort of a glorious picture that I've always loved of an omnibenevolent God's intelligent and sophisticated plan for the universe, culminating at present, in Baha'u'llah and Abdul-Baha, but not necessarily, but the Baha'i understanding is the prophetic cycle will continue and that there will never be a last messenger of God, that God will continue to send prophets to guide humanity according to our needs. And this was sort of revolutionary to me because it had always made sense to me, and in particular, it accorded with an experience I once had at the tail end of high school when it was first discovered that I had bipolar disorder and I was having delusions. I had delusions that there was a God and that he would counsel believers of every stripe, as well as irreligious folk, to take counsel in and to read and to consider, sacred and authoritative the scriptures of all religions, such that, we were supposed to be reading the Tripitaka, we were supposed to be reading the Bhagavad Gita, the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, the Talmud, etc. And I'd always wondered about that because it was, I didn't at the time consider it to have been a vision from God because it sounded too much like what I wanted. It sounded too much like something that I would like to have been true, and so I sort of assumed it couldn't be. But here was Baha'u'llah proclaiming that essentially it was, and that Sam Cooke's change, John Lennon's change, was at hand. That it was possible to reconcile the children of men and build heaven on earth, and being a universalist who believes forthrightly and devoutly in, the sacredness of human beings and the capacity of every human being on the level of the soul to develop wonderful qualities and to be wonderful, to become wonderful. This sort of appealed to me because Baha'u'llah says, look, it's possible and we can win this. This benighted dunya, this fallen world, is not necessarily the world in which we will always be. We can build a society which universalizes an understanding of the golden rule and of universal brotherhood and love, compassion.
Is there a prayer rap that you've written?
Not yet. That requires more work than I've yet done. But I did write a verse at the Baha'i Youth Conference I was at a couple months ago for the Baha'i Youth Conference that I didn't end up getting to perform, that I repurposed on my new album for a song that's getting a music video shortly called Stay Up.
What's that about?
When you think about your place in the universe, I don't know about y'all, sometimes I'm confused at first, but then I've thought about it for a while. All of a sudden in a fluid burst, I feel like the truth emerged. Some days you regret you're alive, but look around, there's no end to the blessing you find. I learned the only way that you can truly gain is when you see a person hurting and you soothe their pain. And all the religions and the creeds are true. If you don't believe in God, he believes in you. So even when you fear that you don't know best, you are loved by a love that knows no death. And when you share it with the other people you know, your chains disintegrate and you're free to grow. Life will always have laughter and music and radiant love. All you gotta do is stay up, because everybody falls down sometime. Don't you be afraid of the sunshine. Yes, you can and will get on your feet, whoa. And when the pain is unbearable, that's what the music is there for. Lift your voice and sing it, move them feet. And stay up, and stay up, and stay up, stay up, and stay up, stay up, stay up, stay up, and stay up, stay out, stay out. So, you know, I wrote bits and pieces of that verse had references to more specific references to the Baha'i faith in them originally, but I repurposed it and it's going on my album. And I when the time comes, I'll consecrate something to Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha, but that's going to be tricky because I like my cussing. You know, I say motherfucker a lot in my rhymes. And maybe I smoke weed now and again. Maybe that's true as well, all right, And I want to, I have to work up to clarity of purpose before I write something for Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha. I have to get there. I'm working on a devotional album. In fact, that's true. I'm working on a devotional album with my man, Nosratullahu Ibn Dawood Ferguson, one of my dearest brothers. My friends Ian Nabil and Nosrat Ferguson are some of my closest Baha'i friends, and Crystal Ann Ferguson, Nosrat's wife. The three of them are everything to me, you understand? They're my everything. I love these people. And so Nosrat's got his little studio, and we're working on something. I got a song called Jesus Is Back. I got a song called Wonderful Thing. I'm working on these joints that sort of have a little bit more of a Baha'i flavor to them. I had been lost, alone and afraid about this whole world, so filled up with hate. The people do nothing but struggle and fight, always so given to cruelty and spite. But rather than sink, into despair, I went to my fashioner, said me a prayer. He said, don't be afraid, for soon it will be that every last soul is united in me. And God said His grace weren't for only some. God said His love was for everyone. And God said He would free us all. And it's a wonderful thing for my heart to know. Now I had a friend who'd been stricken with woe. So I went to my king and I knelt me down low. Said I won't make my prayer, no, until you answer hers. Answer it better and answer it first. Well, she's from a different religion than I. So some try to tell me she's fit for the fire. But God only said, I will heal all her pain. I'm going to make sure she smiles again. Now see, cuz God said, wouldn't just me or you get saved. God said, it'd be the whole of the human race. And God said, He would free us all. And it's a wonderful thing for my heart to know. Now, because I've had this vision for so long of interfaith harmony, this was a song I wrote about it to sing at devotionals. And I performed it at Rezvan, the holiest Baha'i holiday. Recently, I had that honor. And this is the song I wrote. I have one called Jesus Is Back. I have several others, adapting Baha'i writings, adapting Sufi writings for this purpose, And I'm blessed. I'm blessed like anything. I'm blessed like hell. I got friends among the community of the followers of Hazrat Inayat Khan, the Universal Sufi Order, the Quakers, Unitarians, liberal Christians, liberal Jews, liberal Muslims, Hindus and Buddhists and Jains and Sikhs, all sorts of folks, man. I'm blessed, man. And I just try to incorporate the best of what's in all of those traditions to write beautiful interfaith spiritual songs. I want to write interfaith gospel, you know what I'm saying? Because Jews don't do a lot of gospel. There's my man Joshua Nelson, but Jews don't do a lot of gospel historically. And Baha'is have done a little bit of gospel here and there, but I want to, they got a community in Atlanta called the Baha'i Unity Center. They got their gospel choir. That's where I'm trying to get to with the singing like that. I want like the Otis Redding. I want Baha'i Otis Redding music. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to. So I have to write it. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm doing. And as far as hip hop, how does it connect with hip hop? How does it connect with my rap? Like, okay, I cuss a little bit. Okay, I talk about politics a little bit, and I get mad at like the persecution of the Baha'is in Iran, and I get mad at the Israel-Palestine conflict. Angry at both sides in my music, and I'm not. I'm upfront about that. I got to be real. I get mad at Islamic extremism, man. What they believe is their jihad, and they persecute and mistreat Pakistani Christians and Thai, southern Buddhists in southern Thailand and Christians in Nigeria and all this shit. It's bullshit. It's this is a false doctrine and an abomination before God that they call this Islam. And so I speak on it in my music. I don't think it's right. But so sometimes I do some things that Baha'is would find controversial because Baha'is are about peace and love and unity. And of course I'm vocal about support for LGBTQ equality all through my music too. I mean, I ain't trying to, sugarcoat that, but I try to bring it home. I want there to be that universal spirit, and I like making it known that when I'm rapping, there's a lot of joy in it, because a lot of rap is stone faced. A lot of the greatest rap is stone faced, but a lot of rap is stone faced. My favorite hip hop, like even if they're coming from gutter situations, even if they're coming from nothing, black folk in low income environments, some of them have been dealing drugs to get by. You know what I'm saying? And they're talking about that in their music. The Scarfaces who speak with the sort of quiet authority and the sort of smoke burnished voice where he sounds like a preacher who's done everything and been everywhere. Scarface has that sort of quiet gravitas, and then Ghostface is hyped up and yelling at you. Ghostface is yelling at you, but he's like got all this detail and narrative, in his rhymes and all this evocative stuff, all this, imagery. Most Def coming down with a booming voice of righteousness. Speak is my hammer, bang the earth in its shape, now let it fall. Like a lot of these great artists have done this shit. Brother Ali with his spirituality and his frank talk about his genuine and emotive connection to Islam, and everybody all across the spectrum, man, from Queen Latifah to Aesop Rock to Bubba Sparks to the Dungeon Family. Whoo! The Dungeon Family, Outkast are the kings of this, man, because they put so much emotion per song into what they do. And A Tribe Called Quest and De La Soul and on. There's everybody everywhere from, forget about it. Goody Monk, Killer Mike. Killer Mike's a good one because Killer Mike is this dude from the streets of Atlanta who's booming with the authority of a preacher. And he's got a pair of songs called God in the Building 1 and 2, where he just, gives this street person's take on, the malfeasance of political elites and their mistreatment of black folks in the ghetto. And he just goes at it, man, and speaks, at once he's a man from the hood and he's been saved by Christ. And so I love that contrast, man. I love that, I guess, what would you call it? A dichotomy or a dialectic? Who was the philosopher who came up with the dialectic? Was it Hegel? Hegelian dialectic? I don't know. I could be speaking out of my ass right now, but I like that contrast because it's real and it's reflective of the genuine experience of these good people dealing with adverse circumstances who are spitting the truth about their situation and doing it artfully. And that's why I had to join that legacy. And I try to put a little bit of that God, that Lord fire in it. You know what I'm saying? Theory has it, the Christian rapper calls what he does Lord fire, because you got to have that spirit that's born of God, that dream of righteousness streaming down like, like waters, like that, because wrapped up in hip hop is the spirit of Dr. King and the spirit of Brother Malcolm, that's where it comes from. It comes from the narrative of the history of the Black American experience and the historical memory of suffering and the promise of deliverance. In many ways, hip hop is replete with very direct and sincere expressions of faith, and I love being able to be part of that legacy trying to humbly, as a white artist, just from a privileged background, just coming in and speaking the truth according to my understanding, and doing so in rhyme form and paying tribute to the greats, paying tribute to the Nas's and the Wu-Tangs and the Scarfaces, man, and the Outkast. I love to do it. I'm honored to do it. Are you kidding? The fact that Kool Herc and Africa Bambaataa, the founders of hip hop, let me in here to do this, what an honor, man.
Should we finish with something musical, rap?
Sure. Well, you asked me to perform that what do you call it? This company policy song, the song I wrote for my dear beloved ex, who was very dear to me in my heart, and who left me, and I sort of had to work through that. So I'll just do it. It's as if somebody bottled the sun. Only way I can possibly sum up what I thought we'd become. And we was awfully young, so it was probably dumb, but Lord knows we had ourselves an astonishing run. Wasn't just erotica lust, we was longing for love, and we was real, because honesty is as honesty does. Remember that first day, just talking from dawn to the dusk. Barely let go of you long enough to get onto the bus. Them eyes you got, lady, with that gaze you can hold, wasn't nothing quite like it on the face of the globe. I remember I used to sit and watch you play with my baby niece, gaze at you in my bed as you lay asleep. Sun poking through the blinds at dawn, jealous, like it's nothing she'd rather shine upon. Them moments brought me closer to transcendence than I've ever been. So that's something I still revel in, you know? Oh, don't you know, it's company policy, baby. It's company policy, baby. Just the way I've learned to love. It's company policy, baby. It's the way I make my peace. It's in my soul. Do you want the whole thing? Do you want the whole song? There's 2 more verses. Yeah. I'll do the thing. All right, well, cool. Got a lot of my dogs thinking I'm strange. This girl left you. Why you got a song singing her praise? Why you ain't livid with rage, cussing her out? I tell them, cause that ain't actually what love is about. Sometimes I want to attack and be savagely cruel, but my heart doesn't have the capacity to. And you did what yours asked you to do, so how I'm fit to be mad because we can't rekindle the thing that we had. Sometimes I think you wish I thought you was a raggedy, so you would have felt better about having a split. That's the glorious part, because it probably could have torn me apart, so if I just wasn't born with that sort of heart. You ain't my honey dove now, that'll be what it be. Love ain't something that dies, girl, at least if you're me. Still care about you. Even through all the stress and regrets, because a life without love is no better than death. Oh, don't you know, it's company policy, baby. Company policy, baby. Just the way I've learned to love. It's company policy, baby. It's the way I make my peace, it's in my soul. Certain joy is few, and I get it. The thought of you couldn't destroy or steal a record if you wanted to. You probably do. At least if you were sipping on that bitter broth you brewed, knocked it through your conscience askew. Something I can't figure out how to parse. You let me come and help recover your love of self, then you kick me out your heart. Maybe it's crazy to say it. I wouldn't even say Nathan abrasive if I had the patience for hatred. Because, girl, you better listen. You're one of the most beautiful poems that the Blessed Eternal has ever written. I know you think it's better to project the praise, but you'll go to your grave somebody I treasure and respect, even if we never speak again. I hope you live a life you can find inner light and pleasure and freedom in. Blessings and meaning, and that's how I feel, and it's so true that I'm letting my people know too. Oh, don't you know, it's company policy, baby. It's company policy, baby. Just the way I've learned to love. Whoa, company policy, baby. It's the way I make my peace. It's in my soul. Now, because company policy, and then what I'm telling you about warmth and tenderness, and then, let your heart burn with loving kindness, the things Abdul Baha is expressing, and all the way through from all the people and things that are brought up in this conversation, from Dr. King to Bill Withers to the Dixie Hummingbirds to the Mountain Goats, all through, and certainly also my friends and my family. It's a unified thread, it's a unified whole, which is that the focus is always on love. The focus is always on tenderness. The focus is always on warmth. The focus is always on affection. It's always on what more can I do to bring more love into the world than there was before. I got here? What more can I do to contribute a vision of beauty, of truth, and of love, of kindness, On some level, that's how everybody does it. That's how everybody sees it. Particularly most of the religionists of the world, that's us. That's what we try to do. That's how we try to honor God. And that's what I'm trying to do. You know what I'm saying? I'm the Mighty Rhino at your service. Look me up, man. I'm the Mighty Rhino. And I'm so honored to have been part of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. A blessing.
Man, a blessing for me too, man.
A
God's
blessing,
joy
Noah.
upon you.
Thank you, Noah.